This is the KennyM show. Hi peeps, and welcome back to the show. This is KennyM. Right, so last week was good. I did a bit more reflection after we spoke, and this week is going to be fun. I promised you something last week. I'm going to give it to you this week. A conversation I had with my wife, Jocelyn. So before I go into that, I'm going to talk about something I learned from Think and Grow Rich, a book, one of the famous books written by Napoleon Hill. And there are certain keys in which the book basically bases on. I'm taking you through one which I picked up, which is key number one. I normally walk about on the street, like on a high street of every town. And the most amazing thing on those streets is lined up with businesses from left to right of the street. And what I've always been thinking about is, how do these things come up? You can trace each one back down to somebody. Could be either a partnership or one person who would have started that sort of venture. And it ties in with what Napoleon said in his book. Every venture, every business starts with a thought, an idea, or a dream. Everything, every business, every venture would start with a thought, an idea, or a dream. So what I'm leaving with you today is, if you have a thought, or if a thought comes to mind, if you have an idea, if you have a dream of you wanting to do something, don't you just brush it off, because that is the beginning of that venture, soon to be established in future by you. So don't you joke with whatever thought or idea that comes to your mind. Be serious with it and take steps to try and develop it. I'll take you through something next week, which is the second step of what I learned from that book. Right, so last week we talked about the effects of grief. We went through, I think I took about 2 examples of, you'd say, the short-term effect. And I promised I was going to get someone on the line so we can have a chat about how they went through their grief. I've got my wife here. Say hi.
Hello.
Say hi.
Hello.
Good. She lost her uncle, one of the closest uncles she had, way back. When was that?
2009.
2000. Yeah, she lost the uncle 2009. I just want us to listen to her story. She was close to the uncle. I think they were quite close, and it really affected her when it happened. But unfortunately, she couldn't go see him off. So she can share exactly what happened, how she heard it, and how she's managed to cope with it ever since. And hopefully, it will bless you. So over to you, Joe. Just tell them and how what happened, and how you've managed to survive up until now. Why are you laughing?
Put me on the spot.
What spot?
Okay. So, it's very short. And this uncle of mine was...
Doesn't have to be short.
Oh, okay. This uncle of mine was my favorite uncle, and he knew he was my favorite uncle, and I was his favorite niece. So he would come home and meet us, myself and my bigger sister, and he would go like, you know, you're my favorite niece. I go like, yeah, I know. It's funny. And he had been taking care of us since we were young. I mean, that is about when we were toddlers. So we were very, conversant with him. And he even stayed with us for a long time. So I traveled and left him back home. And in 2009, I had, I think a few months before that, I heard he wasn't well. And he wanted to talk to me. So he asked one other uncle who was taking care of him to call me. I remember talking to him, and his voice wasn't great at all. And I don't really remember what he said, but then he didn't talk much. And I asked how he was doing, and they said he wasn't doing great. So after a few months or even weeks, he passed on. And this was 2009 when I was going for a church program in the evening, and I got a call, and I was told, oh, Uncle Eugene had passed. I was like, what? I was so sad. And till date, there's no day that comes without me thinking of him and how I wish I had seen him before he passed on. And me not being there sometimes makes me feel guilty. And also, the only part that makes me happy is the part where he made someone call me before he passed on. So, yeah, I've been living with the guilt for all these years. And I remember when your dad passed away.
My dad.
Yeah, when your dad passed away. Around that time, before we traveled for the funeral, I sat there one day, and the kids were even there. I was like, I'm so sad.
So you just sobbing then?
Yeah, I was crying. If you check the ring, maybe when you go back, you see, I was crying that I couldn't see my uncle. And your dad has also passed on. At that time, that's what I was telling the kids.
This was only five months ago, wasn't it?
Yeah,
6 months ago.
And with your dad, it was like, oh my goodness. For so many weeks, I was trying to get in contact with him, and I couldn't. Because normally I would call him with the kids, and he'll joke around, he'll talk to them, each one. And I'll be happy because, he's spoken to them. And 2009, the death that my uncle's death also, is like it was so fresh, and I was just sobbing. So that's my story.
I remember when no, I'll put that one aside. So you mentioned something about guilt. Guilt, which you've been sort of battling with for 11 years now, ever since your uncle died. You mentioned why you feel guilty, basically because you couldn't reach out to him, or
for a long time,
or you weren't sort of speaking to him that frequently. Was it because of the closeness, or
I think so.
Do you feel guilty because of what he did for you, or why the guilt?
It was because of the closeness, how close we were, because he was the type who come home with money and he'll give it to me. He said,
for you to keep the money?
Yeah, to keep the money. Mm-hmm. He'll tell my big sister, I'm not giving you my money. Josie, that's how he used to call me. Josie is the one I'm going to give my money to. And he was lovely and very intelligent as well. So yeah.
So what have you managed to do with the guilt? Is it still lingering, or do you think you're going to come out of it at some point? Because what you've got to consider is, you mentioned about the good things he used to do, for you, especially.
Yeah.
So do you think where he is now, he'll be thinking, oh, OC shouldn't be guilty? Do you think you'll be thinking, no, you've got to be happy and move on? Well,
I think so. Yeah. Because he would want me to be happy. I know him. He would want me to be happy. Yeah.
And
he always wanted me to be
were you
happy.
conscious of the fact that you weren't able to get through to him for those years, or was it just because life didn't allow you to, in terms of like panicking and work and stress and kids and all of that?
At that time, I hadn't even given birth. It was when 2009, and Chris was one.
Yeah.
Yeah, so, and Keenan. So I think it's 2010. I don't know if Keenan was a baby or I was pregnant with him. I've forgotten, yeah. But prior to that, I think it was life. Life, I mean, and everything. So I think I forgot about him. That's why, even though he was on my mind or in my heart every time, it's like I forgot about him. And
To
that's
chase up
exactly
and ring him
to
and
check. Yeah,
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 yeah.
yeah. I forgot about him.
But
That's what makes me sad.
yeah, I think what I can gather from what you're saying is if you do believe that he would want you to be happy, you might want to start considering
Okay.
that and allowing the guilt to leave. You know, yeah, because I would just use PK as an example. I'm not guilty one bit. When Mom passed away, I was there. I saw everything live in color.
Yeah.
So maybe you might say, well, you were there. You couldn't stop your mom from dying, but it it doesn't happen that way, you know.
Yeah.
And when my dad passed away, when I was called that morning, I took it in, you know. But the hardest thing for me, knowing you being that emotional, when it comes to things like this, I was struggling to pick the phone to ring, to tell you PK had gone,
Yeah.
because I didn't know how you would take
I'll
it.
take it, yeah.
Yeah. That's why when I rang you, I went into the meeting room exactly around the same time
Yeah.
I was told. I went into the meeting room and then I phoned you, and the first thing I asked you to do was I wanted to double check if the kids were
The
around.
kids were there, yeah.
Yeah. And then when you told me
They took it well.
you don't have to cry again now. and 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 when you said the kids were in there, and I said, I'm gonna tell you something, but please promise me you're not gonna create a scene.
Ah, yeah.
You
I
remember? And then you said, yeah, that's fine. And then when I told you, unfortunately, you couldn't hold yourself.
No.
So you just let it out. So grief, the discussions I've been having with my people out there is the grief will come. And we all have to express it one way or another. I'm not the type who would cry. Maybe I have my own way of expressing it, but there are other people out there who would cry, you know. Others would do certain things, probably go to the extreme.
Yeah.
But what we need to consider and take from it is the people who have gone, you know,
Yeah.
how they will expect us to deal with it, because they wouldn't expect you to be sitting there. Your uncle wouldn't expect you to be sitting there thinking, oh, uncle is gone and I can't do anything for myself, and you just be constantly crying. No, they would want you to pick yourself up and
Yeah.
and sort of look ahead and do what you need to do, you know, rather than constantly cry. Yeah, the grief will happen once in a while. The thought will come into your mind,
Yeah.
and then you would want to express it. Crying is fun for some people, you know. I used to cry when I was a little kid, even taking common injections for sicknesses and stuff. I wouldn't cry because I
Oh,
was
really?
oh no. I would
You are
rather
tough
take
then.
I would take the injection than take.
Oh, than the pill.
Obviously, you know, I don't like
don't like-
medicine.
I
Exactly.
know.
Yeah. So I'd go to the hospital and I'll tell the nurse I would rather take the injection because that's quick. I'll just get it into my backside and then that's me gone.
Yeah.
You know, and I wouldn't cry. But I remember maybe I would cry when I was a little.
Little.
Yeah,
Okay.
but then when I was growing up, no crying. So
Tough.
I think the advice we're all taking from this grief experience
Yeah.
is we just need to encourage ourselves and just do ourselves good, you know, by being happy. It's difficult. It's
It is,
happened.
yeah.
It is difficult, but we need to encourage ourselves so that the people around us, at least we leave something for them. They can take care of themselves, or even when we're no more, we leave them that sort of mindset that they shouldn't be too worried about the
Yeah.
fact that we're normal. You know, they need to pick themselves up and move forward. So I really do appreciate you coming on today to share this story with me,
That's all right.
and hopefully, I know it's blessed someone out there. If you want to also just say something, you want to get in touch, I've got my details in the description section below the video, and you can get in touch. You tell me your story, and if you want me to give you a ring and share yours as well, I don't mind doing that. It's all for our benefit. We all get to share from one another, get the experience, and then we all just move on. So thanks once again for listening, and hopefully I'll come to you again same time next week. Thank you. This is the KennyM Show.